I first became associated in the year of the disabled, 1981. I just happened to come along to a meeting that was called, and present at that meeting, guess who? Des Orr and Graham Whitehead and a few others who were instigating the beginning of HHELP with absolutely no budget. I became a member of the group that helped plan day-to-day activities, and thinking to myself at the time, this is like a David and Goliath issue. Here's little David, and the big Goliath is trying to get people with a disablement to come out and socialise. And I thought they're really biting off a lot more than they can chew. But here we are today, and YellowBridge, how about that? When first asked if I could do something about this old building that was absolutely decrepit, white ants had been into it, and there was fibro on the building that had to be removed. And I thought, they want a meeting hall, and we only have a small lounge in this building, 6 rooms in the whole building. And I thought, goodness me, this is really a challenge. And it was a challenge. In fact, I found that the eventual alterations and remodelling of Hill Street ended up double the size, with about 6 extensions. In fact, the board representative, Jane Davis, was a fantastic help. I could talk things over with her, no problem at all. In fact, it helped smooth the way and therefore cut time, cut into inconvenience. The contract had already started with the builder, and council reminded us, or reminded me, that that tree behind the main hall at the front is actually a very rare tree. It comes from Korea, Japan area. It's called the Daimyo Golden Ash. And there are only 2 in Toowoomba, or were at that time, 2 in Toowoomba, both in Laurelbank Park. And they said, you must preserve the tree. So how can you preserve the tree and yet at the same time, in the same place, have a deck that people can perambulate on? And that's what I mean walk on. I mean, you're talking about wheelchairs. So in front of the meeting room, we had to make sure that we preserved the tree and made sure air could get to the roots of it. And there it is today, hopefully still there and safe and preserved. One day I got a phone call at 7 in the morning from somebody who turned up to work down there saying, Mr. Whisson, the possums have been playing on the deck overnight and I know you're going to stain it in the morning with some decking stain. I said, thank you very much. Well, I dropped my egg and headed off down there, and it was good to have not just one supervisor of the work, but to have 15 to 20 supervisors of the work at times. YellowBridge at that time, of course, HHELP it was. Des was the great mover and shaker there. He made sure that we actually had a stamp issued with HHELP honoured on that stamp. And that was one of the many things that Des laboured on for years and years and years. Because in the 80s, very little happened except a small extension of the lounge and the ramp to be an accessible ramp. Most of the work actually happened around 2010, 2011. That's when the major extensions happened. Yes, well, it had a very slow start. It's a bit like when you try to light a candle on a birthday cake and doesn't light the first few times. Des has got to be given lots of credit for that because he stuck with it. And he and Graham Whitehead at the time, unfortunately, he passed on, but they and their small group, and in fact there was a ham radio operator, who actually came in and taught people how to use ham radio. And that was one of those small little flames that was lit in those early stages. Oh, I'm most proud of seeing magnificent results, well beyond expectations. Because in those first few years, it was depressing at times. Des never seemed to get depressed. He just kept going. But for anybody working on the project, designing, talking with builders, that sort of thing, that's just run of the mill. But around about the turn of the 2000s, that's when things started to move. Asset Services was first, I think, and then later on, of course, YellowBridge. I'm absolutely astounded at YellowBridge and what it's doing, and a budget that's way beyond expectations. I feel humbled, actually, because I'm not the one who, hands on the ground, is actually changing things today. But to see what's happening in the scores of people who do a wonderful job, I just like them to think that they should be proud of making a difference.